Good morning and welcome to Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV Big Fox. I'm your host, Frank Acom, and we are broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio. If you did not join us on Friday, you missed a big announcement. Yes, we are going to 2 hours starting at 6 a.m. till 8 a.m. on April the 1st. And thank you to everybody who sent such kind messages congratulating me on that. Also, a message that we received after the program. Frankly, congratulations on your city pin. Thank you. Well deserved. If you did not tune in last week, it was a 1-year anniversary, and we had special guests each day, and the mayor of Corning, Bill Bolin, was kind enough to give me the pin to the city. I'll continue. It would be nice for the city to commission and install a Dwayne Eddy plaque in front of his childhood home on 2nd Street, similar to those found throughout the city. Example, Frederick Carter House, original Steuben Glass Factory location, etc. It would be promoted as another city point of interest. Its unveiling might bring Dwayne back one more time, and it could be promoted along with Denison Park's improvement. That's a great idea. I do have a meeting relatively soon. I don't remember the day off the top of my head. Just kind of spitballing, if you will, some ideas of what we can do to honor Dwayne Eddy. He was inducted into the Steuben County Hall of Fame, as the mayor mentioned. I worked on that really well. I'm really proud of the work that I put into that, and it kind of seemed like a no-brainer, and we were right. They put him in the Steuben County Hall of Fame. Okay. Oh, and if you're not aware, Dwayne Eddy is a Rock and Roll Hall of Famer, and he was born here in Corning. A lot of people don't realize that. I also want to mention later on in the program, we're going to be talking to Corning Painted Post High School Drama Club. They're putting on, let's see here if I've got it, The Sound of Music, March 21st, 22nd, 23rd at 7 p.m. and March 24th at 2 p.m. You see on the bottom of the screen the ticket information, and you can also purchase your tickets at the door. We're going to hear from some of the cast in just a little bit. Okay, here's something that may not come as a surprise, but it was a somewhat interesting study. According to Hannah Sparks at the New York Post, woke people are more likely to be unhappy, anxious, and depressed. A new study suggests out of Finland. Their findings, published in the Scandinavian Journal of Psychology, suggest other Western nations may see similar patterns among their socially conscious citizens. In the end, their final critical social justice attitude scale identified 7 truisms of woke people. Quote, if white people have on average a higher level of income than black people, it is because of racism. Quote, university reading lists should include fewer white or European authors. Microaggressions should be challenged often and actively. Trans women who compete with men or with women in sports are not helping women's rights. We don't need to talk more about the color of people's skin. A white person cannot understand how a black person feels equally well as another black person. A member of a privileged group can adopt features of cultural elements of less privileged groups. The gender divide was probably the most surprising, said one of the researchers. The studies were quite robust with a sample size of above 5,000. Wow. There you go. So woke people are more likely to be unhappy, and I think we kind of see that. Anxious and depressed. Hey, thank you to everybody waving. Keep those waves coming in. We've got a couple of New York State updates. I also want to pick your brain on some of the presidential news. I think it's NBC that is reporting that, boy, Biden's campaign, and Biden specifically, is not happy. That they're not getting the traction or the momentum that they thought that they would. We're going to get to that a little bit later on. I know everybody loves this topic. I do have an RFK Jr. update. Here's a comment. Going to 2 hours on April 1st. I look forward to that. This is not an April Fool's joke, is it? Like I said on Friday's show, if it is an April Fool's joke, then I got tricked too, because I am fully committed to 2 hours as of April 1st. I know. I think the timing on that, with April Fool's, is probably unfortunate, but it's a perfect day because it starts on a Monday, and it's going to be 2 hours in no time. That's going to be a lot of fun. All right, we got to take our first break. Stay with us again a little bit later on. Corning Painted Post High School Drama Club is going to join us right around 7:20, so don't miss that. And we'll be right back with Frankly Speaking. our beautiful view of Market Street as we broadcast live from the Hesselson studio. In just a few moments, we're going to be talking with the Corning Painted Post High School Drama Club about the upcoming performance of The Sound of Music. Governor Hochul is demanding that New York must figure out how to fix this cannabis mess. We've talked about this frequently. Well, Governor Kathy Hochul ordered a review of the way New York State licenses cannabis businesses after calling the sluggish rollout of legal cannabis a disaster. The governor has ordered a top-to-bottom review of the state's licensing bureaucracy to begin Monday, weeks after she declared the rollout a disaster and called off a Cannabis Control Board meeting when she learned the body was prepared to hand out only a few licenses. This really has been a mess, hasn't it? Speaking of New York, there's a really interesting editorial at the New York Post saying that Albany progressives look to chase out more New Yorkers with yet more tax hikes. And we actually heard from Assemblyman Phil Palmisano, I want to say on Friday, where he really released a statement about the One House budget. He's going to be joining us on Friday's show to kind of dissect that. But Albany progressives are pushing for another ginormous state tax hike this year. And never mind how New York's brutal rates are already driving taxpayers and job creators to flee, steadily eroding the tax base. Both the state Senate and Assembly included hefty hikes, as much as $2.2 billion in the response to Governor Hochul's budget plan, along the way to settling the final budget by, well, month's end, it's supposed to be. The progressives would also jack up corporate taxes. This, even as the Citizens Budget Commission recently reported that New York and its localities already lead the nation in taxes, swiping more per person from the public's pocket, 63% more than the national average, than in any other state. Ideology is all that matters. That the progressives don't overall care is what the kind of the crux of their argument is. Mind you, the Empire State was bleeding taxpayers long before the exodus accelerated during COVID. And the legislature's geniuses responded by raising taxes even more by $4.3 billion in 2021. Last year, the Brain Trust and Governor Hochul decided taxes still weren't high enough, so they jacked them up to another $1.1 billion. Albany simply refuses to admit the link between the heavy burden and the mad rush of New Yorkers heading for the exits. Yeah, it's just one other thing driving people away in the state. We have the conversation all the time on this program. Comptroller Tom DiNapoli was sounding the alarm just last week. We mentioned it with Senator Tom O'Mara and Assemblyman Phil Palmisano and Assemblyman Chris Friend. The CBC warns the legislature's hikes, quote, would weaken New York's already precarious competitive position. Hochul says tax hikes are a non-starter, yet she's rolled over for lawmakers before. If she fails to stick to her guns this time, the outbound stampede will only grow. And it seems like we have a story like that for you on a regular basis. We've got a couple other things here about New York. We're going to tie it in with what Chuck Schumer said last week as well to Benjamin Netanyahu and to the people of Israel. We're going to talk about that. A few things here about Biden and Trump, so stay with us. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV, Big Fox. Thank you so much for joining us here on Frankly Speaking. A couple of quick things to get to before we talk to the Corning Painted Post High School Drama Club about The Sound of Music. Did you see that? I still don't know the reasoning behind this. former Governor Cuomo, has been very outspoken lately. He's been kind of making the rounds again. Well, he joined David Paterson. Remember the also former governor, David Paterson? They both piled on their fellow elected Democrats for fumbling issues, including crime, the migrant crisis, and congestion pricing, during a tag team interview on Sunday. Cuomo again went after his successor, Governor Hochul, for deploying the National Guard in the subway as optics and theater. The answer is hire more police, period. It's political. It makes no sense. I actually think it jeopardizes people. If you're not trained to do police work in the subway, you shouldn't be doing police work in the subway, Cuomo said. Cuomo said Democrats in New York are likely to lose seats in November's general election if they fail to address the public furor over crime, the migrant crisis, and congestion pricing. The Republicans are going to come out in force, he said. You can't defend these policies. Meanwhile, Patterson said President Biden, without mentioning his name, and others running the federal government will pay for failing to address the migrant crisis. The federal government is going to pay as well, and some of the people who run it, Patterson said, this is really where the epicenter of the problem is. It is an incredible way to treat states like New York and others that have the same problem. At one point, Cuomo suggested that Hochul and the legislature should write and approve a one-sentence law to relieve New York City of the burden of housing and feeding thousands of migrants. It is lunacy what's happening. Denying a problem never works. Congestion pricing, crime in the subways, the migrant problem, you either solve it now or it's going to get worse. I'm afraid the legislature is going to duck. Do you have a theory on why he's so outspoken? What would he be running for? I know I asked former congressman and current candidate for assembly Joe Sempolinski on the program last week. I asked him what his thought on it was. And I don't think anybody has the answer, but it could be like a Spitzer scenario where perhaps he's looking to run for comptroller or something of that nature. I mean, I don't have an answer. It's just he's almost like he's campaigning without actually campaigning, very much like the Gavin Newsom theory. Okay, one other New York issue, bringing it into our backyard. Jewish students in New York City area are urged not to apply to Cornell University after anti-Semitic incidents, that it's not a safe place. Yes, Cornell, where we've heard a lot about the anti-Semitism growing on college campuses, Cornell was front and center in that. A group combating anti-Semitism has mailed a brochure to all high schools in the New York City metropolitan region, urging them to discourage Jewish students from applying to Cornell University because of perceived Jewish hatred on campus. Considering Cornell, the pamphlet says, Cornell is not a safe place for Jewish students. The group, Alums for Campus Fairness, claim in the brochure, Cornell, which is upstate New York, in Ithaca, is among the New York colleges being investigated by the U.S. Department of Education over complaints of anti-Semitism and Islamophobia on campus. And they have numerous examples. I don't think we need to go through all that. A lot of bad language. The brochure also noted that some Cornell student groups also defended Hamas terrorism. Cornell refuses to enforce the student code of conduct, fostering a hostile climate that endangers Jewish students. A.V. Gordon, executive director of Alums for Campus Fairness, said of the brochure, quote, as a national network of alumni dedicated to countering anti-Semitism on campus, we felt an obligation to warn prospective Jewish students and their families about Cornell's failure to protect our community. The group demanded that Cornell define and denounce anti-Semitism or adopt the International Holocaust Remembrance Alliance statement on anti-Semitism, which says, quote, anti-Semitism is a certain perception of Jews which may be expressed as hatred towards Jews. Rhetorical and physical manifestations of anti-Semitism are directed toward Jewish or non-Jewish individuals and or their property, toward Jewish community institutions and religious facilities. It also recommended that Cornell fire Professor Rickford and enforce its student code of conduct. So Cornell did not make a comment, but Jewish students urged not to apply to Cornell University after anti-Semitic incident. Okay, we've got to take a short break because coming up next, we're going to be talking with Corning Paint and Post High School Drama Club because they have the Sound of Music coming up. There is all the information that you need to know up on your screen. We're going to be talking with a few members of the cast. They'll tell us all about themselves here in just a little bit. So stay with us. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV, Big Fox. Welcome back to Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV Big Fox. I'm your host, Frank Acom, and we are broadcasting from the Hesselson studio. And in that studio, we have from Corning Paint and Post High School's Drama Club, the Sound of Music cast, or at least some of the cast. Thanks so much for being on the show.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Would you mind introducing yourselves? You start first, please.
I'm Natalie Rumsey.
My name is Connor Kirk.
My name is Ella Kraft.
Okay, well, let's get started on this because I have so many questions. How long does a production like this take? Because I think people don't realize that this is a lot of work. And feel free to answer, whoever.
It is a lot of work. It's taken us. When did we start?
Since like January.
Yeah, like
Oh,
middle
wow.
of January.
Yeah, it's a bit of a process for sure, but
Yeah.
it's worth it in the end.
Is it stressful right now as you get so near to the finish line?
Oh,
I'd
always.
Kinda,
say-
yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's, for me, it's more stressful in the middle because, like, you're like, how is this ever going to fit together?
Yeah, how's it all gonna come together?
Oh, that
But
makes
as you
sense.
near the end, you're like, okay, I see how this is going to play out.
Okay.
Yeah.
So why did you originally try out for The Sound of Music?
I didn't try out. My music teacher asked me if I wanted to be in it after a band lesson
Oh.
one day, and I'm like, I'm not going to turn that down. So.
I originally auditioned because they did. I've been doing shows since I was a freshman. I'm a sophomore now, and my mom heard that they were doing Sound of Music, and she came to me and she said, "You're doing Sound of Music," because it's
Yeah.
one of her favorite movies.
Of course.
So yeah.
I'm going to ask you about that in a moment. All of you.
I auditioned because I kind of like grew up with the songs, and my first voice teacher, she taught me all of the different songs, so I grew up hearing Do Re Mi, and
course.
as I think most of us have,
Oh,
and
of course.
it's just so nostalgic. It's a nostalgic musical. I'm really excited to pull it off.
So you've obviously seen the musical then before, the movie.
I have.
Have all of you, or did you
Yeah.
go in blind? Oh, okay. So, well, that was a quick question. How long have you each been acting? You said since freshman year?
Yeah, since my freshman year.
Oh, I've been acting since I was pretty little, just in like community stuff.
Okay.
But my first production with the high school was last year for The Little Mermaid.
Oh,
So,
yeah,
yeah.
that's right. That was a big hit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was fun.
I've never acted before. I joined chorus this year. That's pretty much it.
Do you like acting so far?
Yeah.
Yeah? Will you do it again?
What?
Will you do it again?
Mm-hmm.
You'll be
Probably.
stay involved. And I've got to say, and I'm sure that you've seen it. I would hope the commercial that they have for you, it's amazing. I actually thought it was. You guys are so talented. I thought maybe it was one of the commercials they play for like when the Clemens Center is having a show. You must have been really happy with how that turned out.
Yeah, gave me goosebumps when
Yeah.
I first watched it.
Yeah.
It all came together nicely.
So how many people are in the cast? You don't have to give me exact numbers, but is it a pretty big cast?
I think so. It's like
Yeah.
30,
Like,
I think.
Yeah.
Maybe.
when we all started practicing together, it was kind of like, whoa.
Yeah.
Like, it is
Like,
a
I don't know any of these people.
Oh yeah, well, yeah, that's
We
true.
had to
You've got a
introduce.
disadvantage. That's true. What's the atmosphere on the set now as you get so close? Is it just you're focused on the final product? Is it still the fun? Because I'm sure a lot of this is still fun. You're with friends or new friends, in your instance. So what would you say the atmosphere is like?
It's been fun.
Yeah.
It's been really fun. I mean, just yesterday, you think it's going to be even more pressure when it gets down to the wire, but really, it's been going really smoothly, especially compared to other musicals that I've been a part of. It's just such a fun musical, and, you're dancing around, and us with the little kids, it's a great environment,
Yeah.
and I think everyone kind of, like, picks up on that
Yeah.
as they practice.
So tell us, and I think it's such an iconic, like you had mentioned, you grew up with the songs and all that. It's such an iconic, the Sound of Music, right? Could you give maybe, I can't imagine anybody out there hasn't heard of it, but could you give a quick rundown of maybe what it is for someone that hasn't seen it?
So it's the story of this lady, a young lady named Maria, and she's aspiring to be a nun,
Okay.
but unfortunately she's not very good at it. So the head nun, the mother abbess, sends her to be a governess for the 7 children of Captain Von Trapp. And she has to teach these kids how to have fun because Captain Von Trapp's like a very strict, no nonsense military guy. So she brings music back into the home, and everyone ends up better because of it.
And we're talking about, of course, the Sound of Music, March 21st, 22nd, 23rd, and that's at 7 o'clock. And on the 24th, it's at 2. So when we talk about something as iconic as the Sound of Music, do you find that intimidating to play these parts or challenging, or what would the term be because it is so well known?
It was intimidating at first, but as we continue to practice and just get more and more into character, I kind of feel myself becoming the character.
Sure.
So in that way, it's really fun, and it has kind of become natural, I think, to a lot of us, or at least it seems natural, but of course
Yeah.
intimidating when it's such a big musical, such a big production.
Of course.
Yeah,
Yeah.
a mix of both.
It also helps with getting to know everybody. You really do start to feel like you're one big family.
Yeah.
So that helps with like the chemistry and like just let you act better, I guess, for lack of a better term.
How did you each get into your roles? How did you handle that? Was it watching the movie? Was it just like you said, as you move along, but you become that character?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So before auditions, I actually I brought up music that was from that time period.
Oh, that's a good idea.
And it was kind of girly music from then, because I play the part of Liesel in the musical, so she's kind of a very I have to sing I'm 16 going on 17,
Oh, yeah.
and I'm a teenage girl, and I kind of had to, I am a teenage girl,
Right.
but I'm also playing a teenage
Right.
girl, and she's girly, and she falls in love, and I just wanted to channel that, especially for the time period
Of course.
that Sound of Music is set in. So
How did you get into your role?
I think Brigitte shares a lot of my own personal traits.
Okay.
I like her. She's not afraid to say what she thinks.
Yeah.
I will admit I've seen The Sound of Music twice now
Okay.
in preparation for this show. I watched it once before I auditioned, and for the rest of the day I just kind of walked around as I would imagine myself as the captain, to get a sense of how to just act as him, not just with speaking lines and delivering lines. You really have to just start maneuvering
Yeah.
like your character would to really
channel
get
that
into
energy.
it. Yeah.
Yeah. That's interesting. Okay, I just thought of this because you had mentioned the song that you like so much. Do each of you have what you consider a favorite song from The Sound of Music?
I'm a little bit biased, but I love 16 going on 17.
Yeah. Of course.
But honestly, Climb Every Mountain
Yeah.
is really breathtaking.
Yeah.
It's just gives me chills every time.
Yeah.
And honestly, it's hard to pick a favorite, but yeah, those I love.
I would say, yeah, Climb Every Mountain
Yeah.
has really grown on me, just especially hearing it with the orchestra backing it in person, now that we've had a chance to play with them a bit. And honestly, two of my favorite songs are, one of them I don't sing in, and they're not in the movie, they're only in the original musical. It's How Can Love Survive and No Way to Stop It. So, and Edelweiss, of course, but those are probably my favorite songs.
And you said they're not in the movie?
No Way to Stop It and How Can Love Survive are not.
That's such a good idea. You're telling that to people that maybe only saw the movie. So this is a
Yeah.
good way to tease, get them hooked on coming to the musical.
Yeah.
It's kind of like a bonus
Fun.
footage. Yeah.
I agree with Ella. It's kind of hard to pick a favorite, but
Yeah.
I think one of my favorites is So Long Farewell.
Oh, of course. Yeah. Wow. You forget how many hits there were in this.
I know.
Or songs that just like you said, grew up with. So before we go, what do you guys recommend when it comes to tickets? Should they buy them ahead of time, or do you think that they can get them day of?
I would buy them ahead of time,
Yeah.
I think,
Yeah.
just to be safe.
I have been speaking with the directors, and they have said that tickets are going a lot faster than they
Yeah.
normally do for this show, so I would recommend buying them early.
I would think so, because going back to what we keep talking about, but everybody knows this, The Sound of Music.
Yeah.
So you always do well at the plays there. Little Mermaid did great. They all did great. So this is a scenario where people that may not typically go out to the high school performance may say, I've got to see this one, especially after the commercial. I'm going to keep mentioning that. Okay, final question for each of you. What do you think makes The Sound of Music so special after all these years? That's a tough question. I save the tough ones for the end. We can move. You want me to start with somebody else?
Yeah.
Okay.
What makes it so special is, I think, like I said, just being so nostalgic,
Yeah.
and I think everyone's just grown up with it, whether it's the movie or the songs. I think everything about it just brings back memories of childhood,
Yeah.
and it's so fun.
Yes,
So-
it is.
I would say it's really a timeless show.
Mm-hmm.
Anyone can watch it in any time period and get the true meaning of hope and togetherness that just Maria represents,
Yeah.
just pure happiness in trying to bring joy to everything that she does. I think that's what makes it, what I like it so much.
Just
Yeah.
inspiring.
It is. Oh, I like that. Well, first of all, I know you got the whole rule, so I'll say break a leg. It sounds kind of corny, but break a leg. And best of luck. Oh, no, I can't do that. Best of luck on your opening night. And thank you so much for coming in. I know I was talking on the street. It's so beautiful out today. I was walking down the street, and there are people talking about that, and that feels so good. So I'm so glad that you could take the time out and come in the show. Okay?
Thank you.
Thank you
All
so
right.
much.
All right. Good luck. We'll talk to you later. Stay with us. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV. Big Fox. Look at that beautiful view. We are back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV. Big Fox. Received some comments from viewers. These kids are great. Great show. Thank you. Oh, forgot the wave there. Yeah, they did a really good job. If you just maybe caught the end of it or whatever the case may be, here is the information you need to know about The Sound of Music coming up on the 21st, 22nd, 23rd at 7, and the 24th at 2. That kid has some pipes and needs to be in radio when he gets out of school. He did have a deep voice, didn't he? Connor Kirk. Yes, he did. So I appreciate those comments. Also, another comment, not about the kids doing the interview, but the National Guard is in the subway, or the National Guard in the subway, meaning in New York City, isn't policing. It's a test for martial law. Thank you. Keep those comments coming in. Joe Lieberman over the weekend slammed Chuck Schumer for his anti-Benjamin Netanyahu speech. I thought the statement he made this week was a mistake. This is Joe Lieberman. I can't ever remember anything like it. For a U.S. Senator, let alone the majority leader, let alone the highest ranking Jewish elected official in Washington, to tell Israel that it's time to get rid of Netanyahu, that is outrageous. Benjamin Netanyahu saying over the weekend as well, I think that what he said is totally inappropriate. It's inappropriate for him to go to a sister democracy and try to replace the elected leadership there. That's something that the Israeli public does on its own. We're not a banana republic. So Joe Lieberman also had this. That was Benjamin Netanyahu specifically, but Lieberman continued. Can you imagine Senator Schumer or anybody else in the U.S. government saying to the Brits, we don't like your prime minister, it's really time for you to dump him? Oh my gosh, there'd be outrage all around. It's a bad precedent for us to tell a friend, an ally, a Democratic ally, get rid of the government. We don't like him. Yeah, very inappropriate. Many House Democrats opting out, saying no to supporting what Chuck Schumer had to say. House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries declined to endorse Chuck Schumer's recent call to replace Benjamin Netanyahu. I'm going to personally refrain from commenting on whatever may or may not take place in Israel in terms of the current government or the new government. I have got full faith and confidence in the Israeli people to make the right decision about what their future should look like. I think it's going to be important for our two countries to continue to lean into the special relationship that we have, shared democratic values, shared strategic interests. And they believe that Schumer's speech has just widened the rift between the United States and Israel. The majority of Israelis support the policies of my government, Netanyahu said. It's not a fringe government. It represents a policy supported by the majority of the people. If Senator Schumer opposes these policies, he's not opposing me. He's opposing the people of Israel. Very interesting. Okay, when we come back, I have a little bit of time. Oh, got another wave there. Thank you. Let's talk for a moment, just for fun, about RFK Jr. I've asked you to weigh in on this before. Well, here they're speculating. They were throwing names like Jesse Ventura around for his VP and Aaron Rodgers. Now, my thought was that would never happen. My thought was that was just to get some positive media coverage for a few days, and it worked. There was a ton of coverage. Now it is being reported that Robert F. Kennedy Jr. is planning to tap, let me see if I can put it up here, Nicole Shanahan. This coming from Mediaite, a California-based attorney and entrepreneur who was once married to Google co-founder Sergey Brin. Shanahan, who was behind Kennedy's Super Bowl commercial, which was extremely successful. People are still talking about it. It created a scenario where people are actually Google searching his name for the first time. She is now expected to be the running mate in the long shot bid. They align on numerous issues, said a source close to the campaign. The campaign is also looking for a candidate who can help finance the ballot access initiative. She might be infusing millions of dollars into the campaign to help fund the ballot initiative, which makes her attractive financially. However, she lacks the qualifications to actually do the job. Mediaite found that the domain KennedyShanahan.com was registered on March the 13th and verified that donation page is live and accepting donations at the subdomain pay.kennedyshanahan.com. Interesting. So there's a quick update on RFK Jr. What do you think? I know the idea of having a celebrity on there like Aaron Rodgers was attractive to some people. I don't know if it would have ultimately been helpful, but something to keep in mind that this is not going to be a star-studded pick, but maybe a more practical pick with Nicole Shanahan. Now we do have to take another short break. Stay with us. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV, Big Fox. Boy, this show moves fast. That's why we're looking forward to going to 2 hours on April 1st. We'll have a 2-hour broadcast from 6 to 8 because it just goes so quickly and I have so much left to get to. According to the New York Post editorial board, Joe Biden will do nothing on the United States border crisis even after Laken Riley, and his reasons are beyond contempt, according to the Post editorial board. America should not expect any relief from the humanitarian disaster Biden caused by inviting an endless flood of illegal immigrants into our country. On the contrary, let it continue. In backgrounders to Politico, CNN, the New York Times, and a host of other outlets last month, the White House sent out test balloons about taking executive actions to slow the influx. Now, Biden's Immigration and Customs Enforcement is taking meetings with lefties who want to abolish the agency, as clear a signal as any that there's been no real policy shift. And Border Henchman-in-Chief Mayorkas is stonewalling Congress about Jose Labra, the murderous Venezuelan thug who entered the country on his watch, who was released into the interior and allegedly went on to murder Georgia nursing student Laken Riley. Its plan, the administration, it's not doing anything. That Biden will treat the rising tide of anxiety over the border catastrophe with the same contempt he treated America's worries over inflation. But why? Well, it looks like a demented election strategy. Despite the massive negatives the border is generating for him in the polls, our president plainly figures he'd pay a worse price if he alienates the open border extremists in his party, who dominate his party's base. Plus, actually doing something would prove that he can, indeed, that he's had the power from the start, even though he said time and time again that there's nothing we can do. And so expose his pure fantasy, his current insistence that he's helpless because Republicans blocked his atrocious border bill, which would effectively legalize illegal immigration in massive numbers. Yes, they keep saying, well, Trump had it torpedoed. That's why Republicans didn't go for it. No, it was just a disastrous bill. It wasn't the bill that Republicans could agree on. No, Biden opened the border by executive action, and he can restore order via the same. He's refusing to act to preserve a transparently false talking point and to serve his campaign strategy of getting about the Democrats' base to win in the November election. In other words, utterly dishonorable reasons for the president to continue betraying his oath of office. That's a very good point from the New York Post editorial board. How about this? Remember when, this is from a viewer, remember when Chuck Schumer told us that the Statue of Liberty was shedding tears and how he threatened the Supreme Court justices? He's showing what the left is all about every time he talks. Not a good look. Thank you very much. Okay, we got to take another short break. Yes, we are moving fast. Oh, I do have a little bit of time. This I mentioned earlier in the program. According to NBC, Biden is angry and anxious about his lagging re-election campaign. President Joe Biden was seething, NBC's Peter Nicholas, Courtney Cube, and Carol E. Lee wrote on Sunday. In a private meeting at the White House in January, allies of the president had just told him that his poll numbers in Michigan and Georgia had dropped over his handling of the war between Hamas and Israel. Both are battleground states he narrowly won 4 years ago, and he can't afford any backsliding if he is to once again defeat Donald Trump. He began to shout and swear. We've heard this is kind of a common thing for Biden, but he began to shout and swear, a lawmaker familiar with the meeting said. He believed he had been doing what was right despite the political fallout, he told the group. White House spokesman Andrew Bates told NBC News, President Biden makes national security decisions based on country's national security needs alone, no other factor. Now, Biden stood up in the front of the whole world and said, I'm ready. I'm the guy who could take down Trump. So blank. He better do it. We don't have time for him to be worried about whether or not people are saying things right or the poll numbers are where they should be. I want focused energy and not defensive anger, said Representative Adam Smith. Some other anonymous Democrats are quoted too, suggesting that Biden is angry with himself for not being more forceful with the White House staff. He's probably a little mad at himself for not being more forceful with the staff. All right, there you go. Now we've got to take a short break. Stay with us. This is Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV, Big Fox. And we are back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV, Big Fox. I'm your host, Frank Acom. We are broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio. We only have about 10 minutes left, so get all your comments in. Here's one. Wouldn't it be interesting if RFK was on the ballot as an independent and someone else on the ballot running under the No Labels Party? A third and fourth party would throw the legacy media over the edge. They would. Well, they've tried to do everything they can to go after Kennedy, which I can't get over. I never thought of a scenario where the media would attack a Kennedy. But boy, the long knives came out. As soon as that effective Super Bowl ad was played, I mean, a little before that, too. Of course, they had the articles about being anti-vax and like that. But that's when they got really angry. And his family came out and denounced him and all that. But the media doesn't know how to handle them. And that's what I mentioned this on Friday's show. That's why I believe no matter what they say, he would be taking votes away from Biden. Because otherwise, there's no reasoning why the media would attack him as much as they are. Trump, I want to get your opinion on this, if you don't mind. I know this is a, what's the word I want to look for? Controversial issue, maybe. Reports claim Trump has discussed having a ban on abortions after 16 weeks of pregnancy with 3 exceptions: rape, incest, and the life of the mother. Pretty soon, I'm going to be making a decision, and I would like to see if we could do that at all. I would like to see if we could make both sides happy. Trump was vocally pro-life throughout his presidency, but he drew backlash after telling MSNBC that Governor DeSantis' 6-week ban on abortion was a terrible thing and a terrible mistake. He said at the time, if the Republicans spoke about it correctly, it never hurt me from the standpoint of elections. It hurts a lot of Republicans. But I tell you, number one, you have to go with your heart. You have to go with your heart. But beyond that, you also have to get elected. And if you don't have the 3 exceptions, I think it's very, very hard to get elected. Okay, RFK Jr., this is from a viewer. RFK Jr. needs to get enough signatures to be on the presidential ballot in New York. Campaign starts April 16th. There you go. Okay. Did you see Pence? Boy, the media hated Pence. But now that he's pretty outspoken about his disagreements with Trump and when he ran against Trump, etc., now they like him. CNN having a glowing piece. Mike Pence's bombshell announcement. Now, you may have heard over the weekend he would not endorse Trump and is not even necessarily committed to voting for Trump. I was just looking at my time. Sorry, I got a little distracted there. Let me see. Yeah, I've got a little time. However, the reasons Pence offered for his decisions were little more than a bland litany of policy issues. Pence said, for example, that he disagreed with Trump for walking away from our commitment to confronting the national debt. But then this is when you know kind of the useful idiot idea. As a longtime Republican, Pence can speak to those mainstream, patriotic conservatives who are thinking of holding their noses and voting for Trump and make the case that to do so would be a grave mistake. Pence already has the perfect message for past and present Trump supporters, as well as anyone undecided about Trump. It's what he shared when he announced his 2024 presidential run. Anyone who puts themselves over the Constitution should never be president of the United States, and anyone who asks someone else to put them over the Constitution should never be president of the United States again. Amen. According to Dino Badala. Amen. Yeah, now they like Pence. Isn't that interesting how that works? All right, we got to take another short break. Stay with us. Last break. And we're going to wrap things up here on Frankly Speaking. And we are back, Frankly Speaking, here on WYDC TV Big Fox. This is coming from a viewer that RFK would need 45,000 signatures to be on the New York ballot. Is that right? I did not realize that. Okay, so Pence has forgiven Trump for January 6th, but refuses to say whether he'll vote for his former boss. So that's what that was in reference to, that piece of CNN and Mike Pence's bombshell announcement. He also criticized the presumptive GOP nominee's suggestion that convicted rioters are hostages. I think it's very unfortunate at a time when there are American hostages being held in Gaza that the president or any other leaders would refer to people that are moving through the justice system as hostages. It's just unacceptable. He was on Face the Nation. Shouldn't come as no surprise. Though they're not big fans of Pence, they can use him now. When asked about how he would vote in November, Pence did not rule out casting his ballot for Trump and repeatedly sidestepped the question. The reason why I cannot, in good conscience, endorse Donald Trump this year also has to do with the fact that he is walking away not just from keeping faith with the Constitution on January 6th, but also with a commitment to fiscal responsibility, a commitment to the sanctity of life, a commitment to American leadership in the world. He took aim at Trump for criticizing the bipartisan bill that passed the U.S. House last week that would require TikTok's Chinese owners to sell or be banned from U.S. app stores, despite the Trump administration previously attempting to make similar actions. Before we go, man, this show really does go fast. I know I say it all the time, but Speaker of the House Mike Johnson is telling Republicans who are going after sitting GOP lawmakers in contentious primaries to, quote, knock it off in order to tamp down on divisions within the party. Johnson attended the House Republican annual member retreat in West Virginia last week to unify the often fractious conference, as at least 4 sitting Republicans in South Carolina, Illinois, Texas, and Virginia are going to battle against Republican challengers. I've asked them all to cool it. I am vehemently opposed to member-on-member action in primaries because it's not productive and it causes division for obvious reasons, and we should not engage in that. So I'm telling everyone who's doing that to knock it off. And both sides will say, well, we didn't start it, they started it. Anyway. All right, thank you, Speaker Johnson. Hey, we are out of time. Thank you again to everybody who joined us, all the waves, all the comments. Thank you to Corning Painted Post High School Drama Club. We had those 3 guests in from the Sound of Music coming up on the 21st, 22nd, 23rd at 7, and the 24th at 2. So thank you to our guests. Really appreciated that interview. Let me get off that screen. And really had a good time finding out more about their production coming right up at Corning Painted Post. We've got a busy week. We're just getting started. And I want to thank everybody who joined us this morning. Make sure you join us all week, starting at 7. As I said, the big announcement on Friday's show was that we are going to 2 hours on April the 1st. So mark your calendar and start joining us at 6 a.m. to 8 a.m. for Frankly Speaking. But as of tomorrow, tune in at 7 a.m. for Frankly Speaking. Only on WYDC TV, Big Fox. Have a great day, everyone, and I will see you tomorrow morning, bright and early. I am looking forward to it already. Have a great day.